1-5.
That's right.
Okay, so hello, Helen. Welcome today to our summit. I have a few questions for you, but first of all, I would like to let you introduce yourself.
Okay. Hello. Nice to be here today. Thank you for asking me. My name's Helen, and I come from the UK, the southwest of the UK. And for just over 40 years now, I've actually been a teacher of children, students, right up to 70, and I've traveled the world in my teaching as well. And one of my other things is music. So I've been music director also for all those years. They've been my passions. But a few years ago, I had a new passion. I met somebody online who was a Grammy considered artist, and she's been considered for some 6 years now. And I became her PA, and I had so much fun. So I was working my day job at college teaching, and by night and in between, I was on the radio with her and sorting out tours, accompanying her on travel, all virtually. And I learned so much and had so much fun that at a certain point, I suddenly realized, well, actually, I would like to do this as a job. And so the idea to change my career and make a complete new career for the last part of my working life really was to become a business support, a virtual assistant, so that I could continue to serve people, which I always felt my teaching was, but now I can serve them in their business, make things that are hard for them, make them easy. So that's my latest and newest passion. So I launched in August, so I'm quite new still, but I'm loving it. I have some really, really great clients. So
thank you, Helen. What is a VA? Because many people probably don't know what is it.
No,
or
I was
PA.
thinking. Yes, I actually wrote to a friend at Christmas and explained. Well, I didn't explain, obviously. I just told her, and she wrote back and said, "Thanks me for my wonderful letter. I didn't understand a word of it," she said, "but it sounded really nice." So a VA, it stands for Virtual Assistant. And there are many virtual assistants now in the world, and most of them specialize in something. But it's mostly to support people's admin, and it could be admin, it could be research, it could be social media, it could be organizational skills. So I currently have a client who's a counselor, and so weekly I deal with sending out what do you call them, contracts, client contracts for them to digitally sign and send back. I've been researching conference venues so that she can hold a conference, deal with her emails with clients. Yeah, so it's really whatever the business owner actually needs in terms of admin, because for them, especially if they've recently started like me, they do everything, and at first you love doing everything and you have time for everything, but as your business grows, you realize that there are certain tasks which are actually taking up your time every single week, and they actually stop you moving on. They stop you getting back to the bits of your business, that reason you started it. So in the event of my counselor, her passion is counseling, of course, taking care of her clients. Her passion is not dealing with those emails and booking the clients in and sending the contracts. That is the sort of thing that's actually breaking her, really. And so that is why you would then require somebody that's a virtual assistant to actually pass all that stuff on to, and then they don't have to do it. They can get back on with the reason they started their business. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. So what would be the difference between having a secretary on site or having a VA?
That's an interesting question. The thing is, when you have a secretary on site, you have to provide a chair for them, a desk for them, a laptop or a computer. You have to pay them sickness, you have to pay a wage. Maybe business is slow that day and the person doesn't have much to do, but you have to pay them anyway. And there's holidays that have to be paid for. That's all the things that they call overheads. If you have a VA, you don't have any overheads whatsoever because the person's not there, so they're not taking up any space in the office. They have their own equipment, and you're not paying them for any sick or holidays. You really are only paying for the work that you want done. So if you send work through, that's the work you're going to get done. There is nothing else.
That
So
sounds
in the long,
great.
yeah, it may sound when a VA gives out their prices, it may sound, you know, a lot an hour, but if you actually look at the bigger picture, what you actually save, it isn't. It really isn't. And the other thing is too, is a solo business person on their own can get pretty lonely with their business, and it just helps that you've got someone else on board that cares about the business and cares about you, and you know, they can bounce ideas off on you. So I often have conference calls with them because they want to discuss some idea they've had or thought they've had, and you know, what do I think would happen, and you know, and it seems to really help that you've got that person that you can trust and share the pictures with.
How a VA could help a woman entrepreneur?
A VA
or
can
any
help
entrepreneur?
any entrepreneur. Well, it is, as I said, really. I mean, there are these tasks, and I am noticing that myself in my own business. There are tasks that actually you have to do every single week. You know, it could be sending out invoices to make people pay, or it could be just answering the emails that come in, or it could be booking clients, or it could be contracts, or they want to go to a conference and they haven't got time to look up the best way to get there. They want to find a hotel that will take all their family. They've just not got time to look for it. So then you would research all that for them and come back and tell them. Recently, my counselling client that I have, she sent me through, she wanted to change her email provider, and she didn't know where to start. So I then had to research and come back with the information very small. I come back with it very clear, right, this one or this one, these are the good points, these are the not so good points, this one comes out better. So you just bring back the information, pre-seed into a small way so they can make a decision about that. So it's anything that actually that they don't need to do for themselves, that they can ask someone else to do.
Is there any case like a client you work with, any case you had been able to help and you were really happy and really proud of the outcome you would share with us?
One of my clients is actually what they would call a spiritual mentor, and she lives in the States, and we actually Skype together weekly. We have a couple of hours, and that is a point in case where she wants to talk. She wants to bounce ideas off me. She has so many ideas. She's a very, very creative lady, and I have to sort of help her stay on track to define a kind of straight line, if you like, and then sort of email her afterwards and see what we've said and what a process that we've actually agreed would be a good way to go forward. And then I have to check in between, have you done this, this and this, because I'm likely to have had many more ideas in between, which are all like shiny objects taking her off track. So what we worked on in the autumn time before Christmas was she was trying to launch a new course that would start for Advent and then Christmas and then would develop into the whole year. And so there I created for her an Instagram account, and I worked that every day and linked it to her Facebook page as well, so that we would very slowly get clients on board to join her course. And by the time she got to Advent, she had people on the course, and then on Christmas she had more people on the course, and it's building. She'd like to develop that into a whole year, an awareness of the whole year of seasons, and that went really well. So I was very pleased with that.
Awesome. And what industry do you specialize in?
I suppose the industry I specialize most in is anything. For me, it's always got to be meaningful. So I've been very lucky. Most of my worked in institutions and places that have a meaningful ethos. So it could be the development of people, the education of people, the healing of people, the inner development of people. And that makes sense to me. I've only probably once or twice had a job which didn't have meaning in it, and that didn't go well for me, I can tell you. So in my virtual assistants, I say that I specialize in sensitive and empathetic solo entrepreneurial women. And that's because I am a sensitive woman. It's called highly sensitive person. And so I really understand this from the inside. And there are many women in business that are highly sensitive, or if not that, then extremely empathic. And that brings its own challenges within a business. So if you've got a virtual assistant that understands that, then I can help her with her working processes that also address how to manage the sensitivity and the overwhelm that comes from that. So that's really my focus, I suppose. So it's like counselors, spiritual mentors, people that help people, really.
So Helen, if you were about to describe who your target audience is, age range, demographic, what would it be? Who's your target audience?
My target audience says they are between 35 and say 60. They have children. So whether a young child that they're now balancing with their business, or they've had children that have now grown up and gone, but they are people that have had to balance their life as a mother and a family. They're very, very busy people. They're usually somebody that contributes a lot to their community. They help out at every kind of fundraiser or children thing. You know, they're part of a big mummy group that goes out and about doing things with their children regularly. So yeah, very busy, active people in the community, like giving back, like contributing, and yeah, that's really it. Although, as I say, a number of mine are now older, and they've like written a book now. They've come into a thing where they want to write a book or write a course, but it's still like the journey of the same person, you know, and how they develop from mum balancing children and work life to children having left and putting all their creativity into the next phase of giving, really.
Do you have any happy experience you would like to share? The happiest moment you had while being a VA, or maybe playing harp, or playing the happiest moment, the highest moment of your life where you remember and it was really, you would like to share with us?
I mean, one of them, now you mention the harp, was that I was invited by, I had a colleague at the college I taught, and she left, and I was heartbroken when she left, because she was one of my like-minded people, and she trained as a funeral celebrant. And then she was contacted by a family to ask if she would do a wedding. And she said, well, I have never done a wedding. I'm a funeral celebrant. And they said, well, would you mind being, you know, us being the first? So she said, well, okay. And then she contacted me and asked if I would come and play the harp for it. So I said yes. And the parents, the mum, was on the phone to me, and we had a fabulous discussion. She talked a lot about her daughter being in school and being homeschooled also. And it sounded very similar to my background, which was teaching in Steiner education. And we got on really well. And so everything was agreed, and the day happened, and all I knew was that it was on Dartmoor, which is like a vast area of just moorland on a farm somehow. So I set off on that day, and I was extremely nervous, really, really nervous, and drove there. And I had my sat nav on all the way, and I ended up down lots of country lanes. And then just before I came to the farm, I passed the friend's house, and I thought, if I'd known that it was just next door to my friends, I wouldn't have needed the sat nav. Anyway, I arrived, and it was a field, and they'd set up like a fairy bower. It was really beautiful. and then there was a South American teepee where the wedding, what do you call it after the wedding? The after wedding, I've forgotten what it's called, the reception would take place. And so it was surreal, absolutely surreal. Anyway, the wedding came and I played, and it was lovely. It was really lovely, and I'm so silly to be nervous because no one's taking any notice of me. You know, they're busy looking at the bride. You know, I mean, honestly. So it was beautiful, really lovely. Afterwards, we were standing around with a glass of champagne in this field, and somebody said to us, "Well, you do know who that is, don't you?" And we said, "No." And we looked at the man, the father, and thought, he is actually very familiar, yes. And it turned out to be a very famous in the UK television actor, and it was his daughter's wedding. And oh gosh, I mean, I was so shocked, so shocked. And the wife also is a famous actress in the UK, and we had no idea. And I was so glad I had no idea, because the nervousness would have known no bounds. And as it was, it went really well, and they couldn't have been nicer and happier with the result. And that was so touching, you know, that they were so grateful for it. We were even invited to the reception afterwards. We had our own places with our names at the reception table. I mean, it was a really surreal day. It really was, but it was amazing. I'll never forget it, ever.
Awesome. And one amazing experience you had as a VA you would like to share with us?
When was it? Well, yes, my Grammy considered artist, she came to the UK for her first tour. That was in 2016, and she hadn't been here long, and I always had to help her with travel. So what that meant was that she would get on a bus or on a train, and I would text her, okay, you have 9 stations, and I would list them all out, and then I'd say, and you have to change. And then I would follow it, and I would text her with what platform she was coming in on and what platform she needed to go out on. And I would tell her how many minutes she had in between, if the train was on time, all those sorts of things. So having got her from Scotland to just outside of London, she messaged me late in the middle of the night and said she was due the next day at a radio studio completely the other side of London and out the other side, and she needed help, you know, crossing London from where she was in Dagenham. Oh my goodness. So I actually managed to follow her all the way. She had to take 3 buses and 2 trains to get there, and then we had to reverse the whole press at time getting back. And I was so excited. I got her there on time. And what happened then was that I became known as the Helen app. So radio DJs everywhere call me the Helen app, you know. And it's like, she said, I've got the Helen app in my back pocket, and it goes everywhere. And that's what I did with her, and I loved doing it. So that was really exciting. Even I managed to find her when she got lost on the underground, and she was on the wrong train, and I really had to work hard to get her and get her back on the right train. But
I know that. It happened to me in the tub. Sometimes when you have the wrong one, it's really something.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, but I was so proud of that day. I'd never done anything like that at that point. That was like the start of my work with her, and that was the start of the Helen app, you know. Oh my God.
Okay. Leads us to my next question. Have you worked with anybody specialized in the digital, like somebody who's working on websites and stuff like that?
Sorry, ask me the question again.
Have you ever worked with a business owner or a woman business owner specialized in the digital, like using apps and stuff like that?
What, that the business owner is using apps, or
yes,
I'm doing?
Like the business itself is based on the digital, like could be apps, could be website and stuff like that.
The counsellor lady I'm working with a lot right now, she has a website, and she works with something in the UK called Meetup. It might be universal actually.
Yes,
it's
universal.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, so she has lots of events on there. And she did have someone else build the website, and now they have left. And I never did actually offer myself as someone, you know, that can do websites, because I've built my own.
I'm not talking about making the website itself. It's more like working on the digital, just having everything. All the business is digital. Did you ever work with a business owner who's only digital, nothing like physical?
No, I so far, no, so far, I know people that, you know, they have a service which is like counseling or mentoring or something. And usually what's happened is they're not, you know, good at digital. So they've sort of included me in helping them with their digital. So I haven't had it really where the business itself was based on.
It's cutting. It's sharpy. I can't hear you. If you could re-answer, because it's all sharpy.
Okay. So far, I've only worked with people that have a service-based business, which can be counseling, mentoring. Most of my clients are not actually very good at the digital side.
But
So,
are they mentoring online or on site?
one of my clients actually does mentor, in fact, two of them do, in fact, maybe three, now I think about it. They do mentor over Skype or Zoom, because they do have clients across the world that have appointments.
So they are completely digital. That's the kind. Like if you do all the process from the customer serving it, everything online, and not have anything physical. That's my question.
Yeah, that's true. I hadn't looked at it like that. You're absolutely right. Yes. Yes, so they do. They expand their business by offering digital only appointments, because otherwise these people would have to find somebody else. And in the case of two of them in particular, people wouldn't want to find somebody else, because these two are really the specialists in their field. Yeah. So they want them, and that's how to get there.
And how was your experience working with those who are only specialized in digital?
That was quite interesting, because the clients, the people that were trying to have an appointment with these people very often did struggle with like getting into Zoom or getting into Skype. And so I started being there so that I could check that if they were having any problems, and if they were, try to help them get them in. And once they were all in, then I would just, you know, say hello and bye and then leave them to it. But that seemed to help, because the person delivering the session they were going to was very nervous, not nervous, but they were mindful of what they were there for, and they didn't want to have to worry about the digital side of it. They just needed to deliver. So I came on side to make sure that the digital worked both for them and for the client, and then I would leave them once I was sure that they were there together and fine.
And how did you feel about that? How was your experience about that?
At first I was a bit nervous and thinking, gosh, you know, how you know, what will I do? But the thing is, I think it's like anything. Once you're actually there and doing, you realize that you know more than you do, and you just do it. And I get a very excited buzz about that. You know, it's similar to teaching. You know, when I'm not teaching, I'm not sure how I do it, and how do I know what to say next? But when I step into that role, I just do, you know. And I found it's the same with this, that I am actually digitally proficient. And so something happens and I just do it, I just sort it out. And it does give me an energy, it gives me a real sort of boost, you know, to find that in my skill set, things that I never considered were a skill. But realizing, yeah, they make a difference. They are like the reason I'm doing this. You know, it's making. I'm working behind the scenes to make the scenes show up and shine, and I really like that. It's in line with my values, which is really to be of service. You know, and that's an example of being of service.
I see. So my next question is, what advice would you give to anyone willing to jump into this business, like a new lady who would like to become a VA?
Yeah, I see that question a lot actually in Facebook groups that people ask about that. I would say spend time within these groups. Find groups to join that are particularly virtual assistant group. And then also, spend time in there and also see where you feel comfortable, because not every group will make you feel comfortable. Find where you feel at home and then ask questions. Just ask. And people are very, very good at putting in, answering the question, putting in a link, or read this, look there. There's a lot of information that you can get from being in these groups. Just be part of it. And also, not only that, but keep showing up, showing that you're interested, be there, ask the questions, what they call give value. If someone else asks a question and you've just found something out, then answer that, because you already know something, so you're maybe telling somebody something and they're just one step behind you. So as soon as you know something, you already have something good to pass on. And that makes you feel good and gives you confidence, and also you're seen then as well, as being competent and confident, and that's a good thing.
I know starting a business is not easy. What is your advice? Like, if you were able to go back and talk to yourself before you started your company or VA, what would you tell yourself like last year?
I think what I didn't want to do, but I did do, and I was right to do it, was that it's okay if you lose your job and then you've got no choice and you just have to jump in and try and make it work. But for many of us, myself included, you might be on your own. You might be the only one that's bringing in the money for your house, and that makes it extra stressful. So you don't have any cushioning against anything. So I would say, although we might want to jump in full-time straight away, to actually take the day job and reduce the hours, down to as much as you can. So I went down to 3 days, for example. So that was my financial stepping stone. And what's happened is that that is really what I'm living on, and I found out that's the ceiling like I can manage on. So then it takes the pressure off of the building of the business, because anything I then earn is just improving things. And then the idea then is to slowly, as you build up your online work, then you can slowly reduce the other. So it's like scales can work like that. And if you're lucky enough to drop yet another day, that's quite good. So I would say financial stepping stones, really, for taking the pressure off yourself, because it's too much pressure at once to try and do everything you have to do whilst worrying really about your business and your money and your bills and all of that. So I would say that make sure you have a stepping stone.
Okay. Next question is, how do you foresee the future?
Well, how do I see? I'm to be honest, I am finding that my 3 days of teaching and 4 days of business is actually a really good balance for me. So I'm happy in it. However, my future really is that I want to finish with the teaching. As I said earlier, I've done it for over 40 years, and really, I want to have a completely different career for the kind of last part of my working life. And this is what I want to do with it. So my future really is that the business becomes full-time. And what that allows me to do is to get a dog. I have had a wish for so very long to give a dog a home. And that's really it. And at the moment, I don't feel I can. While I go to work full days, even though it's only 3, it wouldn't be fair to leave a dog on its own for 3 days, So that's a big part of why I want to make it completely full time. Plus, being a sensitive person myself, I've discovered that there are certain things I need in order to balance my overall life better, a different way of working than you get when you're an employee working under somebody else's direction and yeah, sort of energy demands, that sort of thing. I would like to manage my whole life differently, my whole working life, my whole energy level. I want my dog. I'd like to have more time to go back to my music. Yeah, all that sort of thing. I'm trying to write a book at the moment, you know. So that's my future, really. I want to be able to focus on all these things and move on from the teaching, which I love to bits and I'm not tired of. But
I
it's
have a
been a long.
question. Why don't you have online courses?
Yeah, that is actually my next step. So I have started looking at how physically to make online courses. I just at the moment have to decide what exactly I want to teach. But it would be very stupid of me kind of to leave those skills behind. I'd like to bring that world with me into the new one. So it will be digital teaching, you know, which will be different. But I would really like to do it, and also to write some books. I mean, I've been asked to write books for many years and I just haven't done it, you know. So if I can add all that to the business, online courses and ebooks or even real books, that would be great. I would love that. That would be my balance, actually, the virtual assistant and clients, and then my other teaching and book writing.
Leading to my next question, what kind of entrepreneur could contact you for help and support in your venture?
Any sort of solo business. I mean, it could be a small business, but it could, anyone, big person on their own. And I would say that they probably in the second stage of their business. You know, they've started it. They're incredibly proud. They've got a wonderful business. They've now got a full waiting list if you're thinking of counsellors or mentors, and the admin has now become too much. So it means that they've actually grown to a point where they can afford to have a virtual assistant and they need one at the same time. So these two things come together. So I think it's anybody in that second stage of their business that want to expand, want to look at the bigger picture, want to get back to the reason that they actually started the business in the first place. I think you get a real buzz when you first start that you do everything, you know, the admin. You feel really good because you've got it all in your hands. And when I think from having moved from being an employee to suddenly being your own boss, all those things are really exciting and really empowering. But after a time, some of those things that are not your genius and not your joy, you don't want to have to do anymore. So that would be the point at which a solo entrepreneur would think, I need VA support.
Absolutely. What makes you the best option? Why would you be better than another VA? What do you think makes you different?
That's an interesting question. You're quite often asked that, and you know, I don't know. Other than I can't really speak for myself, but other than that,
what your client would say about you? What makes you more unique? Why would it be? I'm going for this app, Ellen app, or stuff like that. What makes you you?
Well, the clients that I have asked, because I had a weekend away with some of them recently, and you know, they were talking about my qualities, and I was surprised at what I was hearing, because obviously you don't know your own self. But I was being told that, for example, one person said she comes to me and she offloads and tells me all her stresses and worries about different aspects of her business. And she said that I just listen and, you know, ask questions. And then she said at the end of it, I suddenly come in with something really clear that absolutely makes a difference. And she said, and suddenly I know exactly what to do and I know exactly where to go. And she said it's to do with the quality of my listening and my ability then to bring out the right sort of next thought. So they come away feeling clearer and with a strategy even of what to do next, or next, you know, 3 nexts, whatever. And that happens in the quality of the conversation and within the listening skills that I actually have. Yeah, so obviously I couldn't say that about myself, but that is what people have always said about me, actually. Even as a teacher, they've said the same thing. I didn't think to apply it to my VA business, but that's what's said. And I was even suggested by some clients to actually offer what they were calling half hour with Helen, or was it half a minute? No, half a minute with Helen, that's right. And it was that people would contact me for a short, small conversation about something that was bothering them, and have me listen and have me feedback something. They felt that was something that I would be able to offer. So I'm exploring that at the moment and how to put that into words. But that seems to be what's different about me, my listening quality and my ability to bring something useful back, which changes their place, the position they're in at that point.
Would you call yourself a solution founder? Like if somebody had a trouble, doesn't know how to figure out things, you are more like able to come up with a solution?
Yes, yeah. I was thinking about that the other day, actually. Something came up and I realized, again, I hadn't thought about it in terms of myself, but I suddenly realized I am a problem solver, because it doesn't matter what I'm presented with, whether that's just in my life or somebody else's life. I will go on and on and on until I found a solution. In fact, until I found out why that didn't work and how can I make it work, whatever it is. And again, I've always been that way, and I've used it a lot in my teaching as well, because I teach young adults with learning disabilities, and when I was teaching children, you have to find as many different ways as possible, because one of those ways is going to speak to them and they're going to be able to access the learning. Not every way is. So it's my responsibility to find the right way that's going to turn that light on for that child or student. And it's the same in business, I will go on until I've solved the problem and brought a solution.
I have a personal question to the teacher this time. I've been really lately, I realized that I was a kinesthetic kid. What would you tell a kinesthetic kid learner?
Kinesthetic.
Yes.
I think, yeah, that's interesting. I think a kinesthetic teacher, they need to do everything that's with their hands. It's to do with doing. It's to do with anything that you actually physically do becomes your path to learning. And the more you do something, the more the body gets the knowledge, if you see what I mean. So the head doesn't do it, but the kinesthetic is the way to learn, and that's the way the whole body gets involved, and that way the person actually gets to learn. And I think there's a lot of in this today's world as well, sensory needs as well. A lot of people have a need for sensory things, so that's anything that you touch and feel, and any sensation that you've got. And I think it's all to do with having a body knowing, which is different than a head knowing. Does that make sense?
It does. And what if you had let's say a customer that's kinesthetic? Would you be able to manage?
Yes, I think because I'm pretty much a kinesthetic teacher myself. I would so for example, I have had clients that are talking about that, even something simple like their to-do list, and you can type up a to-do list, and that's one thing. But if you actually write it, you physically craft it with a pen and paper, shape what you want to say, put it in an order, it goes into you in a far different way than it just, a couple of fingers just typing. So I really believe in working in that way, because it becomes an experience which just typing something doesn't. So yeah, I would, and paper diaries, we've talked about paper diary versus an app, for example. What's the difference? How do you feel? Which one helps you remember things better? So, and when you talk to your client like that, you find out, their light bulb goes on and think, oh yeah, I remember now. I used to, so they actually tell you that, yeah, you're right, I remember this. So yeah, you can find out then how to better for them.
Thank you, Helen. Do you have anything you would like to add?
Oh, I think I've talked.
We
I've
talk a
talked
lot.
right. Yeah. No, I only to say that if anyone is, I'm thinking of, being a virtual assistant, I do think it's a wonderful, job to get into.
I think you should
and
plan courses on VA, helping
yeah,
people how to become a good VA.
yes, I thought that because I'm so close to the struggles, I had to find it all out kind of by myself and, followed lots of online gurus, and had to find who I felt connected with and what course could I do. And when I built my website, for example, oh my gosh, how stressful that laptop nearly went out the window a number of times, because I didn't even know the language in order to Google what I needed to find out. So yeah, so I'm still very close to that struggle. So I would like to be able to write something, or give courses on those beginnings, because it might help somebody else skip some of the pain. Keep the laptop in the room and not out the window.
Helen Painkiller.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, where to find you? Let's say somebody watched this and would like to find you. Where to find you? What's your website?
My website is, they always have the HTTPS, don't they?
No.
And then it's hey Helen, hey and then a hyphen.com. So hey is HEY. So that comes from the Helen app as well, where my Grammy artist used to message me, hey Helen, I need this. So my called Hey Helen, with an exclamation mark, because it's always I want it now. So yeah, so www.heyhelen.com, hey-helen. I'm also on Facebook, and it's also Hey Helen Virtual Assistant, and I'm every day on the page. I'm on LinkedIn as well, under my name, which is Helen Bawden, which is BAWDEN. It also says virtual assistant next to it. And I'm on Instagram as Hey Helen VA, I think. So I am all over social media, and I am on it every single day. So if people are on any of those, they can message me on any of them, or my website contact form as well.
And how often do you answer?
Every day, all the time. I'm on it so much. Yeah, I do believe that when people bother to comment on your posts, or if they bother to do that, it's only right that you answer back, and I enjoy that anyway. So yeah, I'm pretty instantly on it. I have it on my phone. I have all the apps on my phone, and they're always with me. So other than if I'm in a lesson for an hour, I can't take it, on the days I teach for an hour, but then the next minute I'm on it again. So yeah, I'm always there.
Oh, I'm going to say something super.
Addicted, I think my mother.
Yeah, you sound like teenagers.
Yeah, I think my mum's got a few words for me like that too.
Thank you for your time, Helen. I appreciate having you today on this summit.
Thank you. I really enjoyed talking with you. Thank you for asking me.
You're welcome.